Oh, good afternoon. This is Andrew Foss, and I'm going to be on the line today with Laura Walker as we discuss the new moon this month as it goes into Aquarius. It's going to be happening on the 15th of February. Of course, we're recording today on the 13th, kind of in advance of that time in order to kind of get an overview of what we have in store. So with that, hello, Laura. How are you doing today?
Hi, Andrew. I'm well. How are you?
Hey, I'm getting there. It's sunny, it's bright, and it's not raining, so I'm in a happy place.
Good for you. I'm glad to hear it. I'm
Yes.
curious how your Capricorn cycle went. Did you experience more of a mountain pilgrimage, or did you experience more of the large aviary?
I think it did end up feeling like the aviary. So much was happening that I didn't quite get to the meditative parts, but I felt really, really connected with a lot of stuff. And things have just been happening. It's been more of the bird energy that I've been feeling.
We're going to have bird energy on this cycle also.
Oh, fantastic.
It's really part 2 of that, of the Road of the Bird Tribes part 2. But the Aquarius cycle, the title for this cycle is New Wind. The main reason there are a few reasons for that, but one of the main reasons is the fact that the Solkin, or the day sign, the Mayan day sign of the new moon on February 15th is one wind, meaning new wind, brand new wind. But it's not just that with wind. We've got a few windy things happening, Andrew. It's the balsamic phase or cycle. It's the balsamic time of the year. We're going to have 2 balsamic months, this one and the Pisces cycle. So that means this month and next month are the closeout of the current year that we're in, and then the preparation for the new one. Balsamic is the last phase of the cycles of the moon, and it's the time of endings and beginnings. So it's not quite the old cycle all the way, because it also introduces the new. Well, we know that this year that we're ending over the next 2 months is called A Woman's Hat with Streamers Blown by the East Wind.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a good deal of wind. And then, not least, the emissary of Sophia, the Mahavidya on duty for the cycle, is Matangi, and she's goddess of the wind. Seth is still on duty as the emissary of Thelete, but this is the mega Matangi cycle. And so meet Matangi. She will be blowing through quite strongly, I believe, as we're advancing. We're in the balsamic moon phase of the Capricorn cycle, so we're really in double balsamic energy right now. We'll be entering this over the next 2 months, so it's about closing out and completing things that you started at the new moon in Aries, anything that was going on in your life back in April. Where things are now, you want to get straight with that and then release what hasn't worked, or where you feel like what you've fallen down with, and pivot and prepare to begin anew on April 15th. So it's this special dreamy time. It's a very Piscean time. It's the last 15 degrees of Aquarius, and the full 30 degrees of Pisces are the balsamic time of year. So when the sun and moon are together in those places, that's the energy we have, and it's very, a lot of people who are very structured don't like this time of year because it isn't, it's very spiritual and dreamy, and it deals with the unconscious and the creative void, and it can be rather nebulous. But that's because the spiritual influence with balsamic phases is so strong, and we touch spirit so closely, we take that and we jump off again when the sun and moon meet up again in Aries. So that's a very brief way to say, blow, as where the times blow, as the month is going to go, understand where in the bigger cycle we are and what that means. So, the Oracle report has always been about being on time with natural cycles, particularly with the sun and the earth. And so that's kind of, get you in the mindset of what that energy is like. So it's a time for going inside and bringing and exploring and seeing what the imagination is coming up with. Remember, the next new year that year is about, through imagination, a lost opportunity is regained. So over the next 2 months, we may be seeing our lost opportunities a little bit more, or a little differently, I should say.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean that it's sad, although there is a little bit of grief element in with this coming month. But it perhaps is a way to evaluate and look at where we're at and where we want to go and what we want to happen personally and in the world. So before we go on, let's do the balsamic thing and close out Capricorn 2018 cycle, and let's just see what those Sabian symbols actually turned into, what that energy manifested into. So, and what I mean by this is, at the beginning of the month, or right there at the beginning when we recorded, we went through the Sabian symbols, and there were some things happening that I pointed out that were kind of fitting in, and we don't really know what will happen in the world that will manifest. The Sabian symbols only give a higher potential for things. It provides a more facilitative, energetic for certain things, but how that manifests is really, you could never pinpoint exactly. And that, it's kind of like baseball, and if you were at the plate and you know that the pitcher has this inventory of pitches at this particular time, and you're trying to see, what that might be, you're trying to figure out what the pitch is, and you're also looking at what the outfield is, like with the other planets. We know who pitcher is, and we know what the inventory of that pitcher's pitches is, but we don't exactly know how it will turn out. So let's take a very brief review of some of them. Of course, it was 10 road in the Sulcan, the Mayan sacred calendar, which is the end of the road to destruction. And the Sabian symbol was a large aviary. I talked about it was the return of the road of the bird tribes and the actors of Second Renaissance stepping up even more, because we had we had the eclipse. We had a lot of things that were that were really eclipse, yes, just that little thing that were really pushing intensive energetics. So the new moon was at a large aviary. At that time, we saw Twitter erupting with "Release the Memo," and then the FISA memo was the big story. That really did turn into the big story. All that chatter, all that communication and sharing, all of that about information that was so strong for the cycle. We had several Sabian symbols. Birds in the house singing happily was one of them. A hidden choir singing during a religious ceremony. A volunteer church choir makes a social event of rehearsal. This was all about all of these messages and information, particularly coming in from a higher spiritual level to bring the light to things. We saw the issues of 5G really came to the forefront during this cycle. I would also say that the Q phenomenon just blew up, just spread like wildfire. And we have the Sabian symbol of Chiron. A new moon reveals that it's time for people to go ahead with their different projects. I talked about how that's diversification, how you can expand out. Doesn't necessarily mean you leave something behind, but sometimes you do. There was definitely a split between the Q people, people who were believing that Q was real and people who weren't, or whatever. A divide and conquer tactic, a divide and conquer energetic that the New World Order has been working and may possibly be continuing to be working around that. Certainly there are ops all around it, that are ancillary. It just shows us we don't want that to happen. Remember, guys, we're all on the same team here.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Earth was at an Indian girl introduces her college boyfriend to the assembled tribe, changing the status quo. There was one thing that happened this month, or developed this month, that came out, that it could fit into a few different Sabian symbols. A woman reading tea leaves and an X-ray photograph, Venus and Mars. Certainly could have been that part of this also, but how about the preliminary findings of the Paracas skulls of Peru coming out? L.A. Marzullian, Brian Forster, I believe, bringing that information out. Huge information about species, seeing through all of the, all of that testing that was done to find out about that. And then, of course, the Russian dossier. This came out with multiple symbols. The woman reading tea leaves, the X-ray photograph, the double promise reveals its inner and outer meanings, the memo, and not just that, the text messages, the secret society quote that, and within the FBI and the intelligence community, and the woman drawing aside 2 dark curtains that close the entrance to a sacred pathway. So it was just a whole month of revelation. And like I said, we're kind of in part 2. Remember also, this was the road of the bird tribes. The way was shown. Destiny was poking out with Jupiter and square to the north and south nodes. So I hope everybody got a little bit of information about that. Things should be crossing our paths that are showing. If it hasn't happened yet, it should over the next couple of days for you. We also talked about surprises and changes, and with the black moon conjunct Mercury at the new moon, darker thoughts and words, and it's hard to really measure that now because that's just becoming, it's just all the ugly communications are being really pushed out as we complete the Kali Yuga here.
Oh, yeah.
So for efficacy purposes, that is where the Sabian symbols went, and of course, always open to interpretation. That's the thing. They're archetypal, and so one thing I wanted to talk about with it, I skipped. The settling down in Korea and the weirdness even that's kind of developed around North Korea and Kim's sister with all of this.
Oh,
We talked about there would be some peace coming in, and that was with the hidden choir singing during the religious ceremony. That's Pluto. The church choir singing, that was the North Node, and Neptune, the sword used in many battles in a museum. So that's putting that away. That was an angel carrying a harp. So even though we understand that, when we understand things that when we're awake, that's manipulated. All of it, what's happening in Korea, is completely the New World Order. It is the cabal, as is everything with China. I just want to mention one thing, and probably we'll delve into this a little bit deeper at some point this month. During the Sagittarius cycle, if you remember, that new moon was conjunct the galactic center.
Yes.
And so it was just a spiritual reform, and we talked about that. There was so much. The Sabian symbols had a lot of the Pope blessing the faithful and the purging of the priesthood. We had those symbols. Examination of initiates in the sanctuary of an occult brotherhood. Those were all about the Pope and the changes and things that were happening within Catholicism. The Pope apologized during that cycle, during the Sagittarius cycle. There was also the Sabian symbol of a Chinese laundry in effect that month where Venus was. And now it takes 2 cycles for that to show out now, that merging. Chinese laundry and all those symbols with the Pope there. So we see that now with the Pope in China and that happening. So the Pope apologized, closed that cycle out in an Illuminati framework, and then opening up a new cycle. We know it's the same group. China is Bush and Kissinger, and Pope is all up there with it. So let's see it for what it is, and see for how it was shown out, how it showed out before that. All right, now, without further delay, the Aquarius cycle. Let's go back to that one.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're looking at the worksheet that is up at oraclereport.com, the Aquarius New Moon Sabian symbol list, the worksheet there, you'll see everything you need to know up top. You know what you're looking at, the date of the new moon, the degree, what the Mayan day is. Don't worry so much about that if you don't, or anything about on this paper if you don't understand it. You'll catch it over time, if you want to. If it's something you're not interested in, that's fine too. But it is here in case anyone wants to learn it a little bit deeper. Matangi and Seth are on duty. You'll see that. You see the Sabian symbol for the year. We always want to keep that in mind. That's why I always wrote it every day in the Oracle report. So we need to keep our touchstone. We need to remember, okay, what's the overall dynamic we're working in? We're working within cycles within cycles. I mentioned, again, this is a balsamic solar-lunar cycle. So that means that's the time of the year. If we broke the year down into 8 phases, split it up into 8 parts, equivalent to the 8 moon phases, just 8 parts, we would be in that last part, balsamic. It just happens to be for 2 months this year.
Yeah.
Let's see. You can see under those I have the glyphs. And if you, with these materials, there's the little key that has the glyphs and what those planets are. The new moon is conjunct Mercury. Again, lots of communications. It's in sextile with Uranus. Again, Uranus has just been the ruler here for several years. It's just bringing the change and the lightning fast revolution. The new moon is in square to Jupiter. If you look over that, I'll go into those dates later. I don't want to dig down into that, what that first quarter new, what that means. That's another recording. But basically, just real quickly, we're in that. What it means is stepping out, first quarter, keywords, step out. Now, with things that, ideas that you had around October 26, 2017, things that were going on at the end of October, right there around Halloween, whatever was beginning, if you had anything that started at that time, now is the time when the Sun and Jupiter have moved into a square, first quarter square. Squares can either be first quarter or third quarter. Don't worry about that if you don't understand it. But what it means is to take action with things that you might have just initiated at that time. Under that, the black moon is conjunct Mercury. You want to be real careful how you say things this month. Mars is in square to Neptune. It's a third quarter square. Mars and Neptune began again. They made a conjunction. They made the new phase. They started a new cycle between Christmas of 2016 and New Year's Eve 2016. And so anything that might have been going on or started or initiated at that time, we're now at a time of revising and realigning, third quarter. Keywords for third quarter, revise, realign. So if there was something happening in particular around Christmas time of 2016, now's the time to take responsibility for that and take it to the next level. If it's still around. If it's not still around, if you remember what was going on then, it's a perfect time to pick it back up. All right. Our last one, Mars is in trine to the North Node. That means just a lot of energy continuing to move forward on the path. Okay, the new moon, let's check our time. I'm never as fast as I try to be, am I, Andrew?
Oh, what, all right?
Because I try to collapse too many things into one. Everybody knows this about me. It's not surprising. Let's see. Okay. New moon at 28 Aquarius. A tree felled and sawed to ensure a supply of wood for the winter. 28 Aquarius. All right. Preparation, changing perspective, finding a new function or value or a new use for something. Sacrifices and potential falls from grace go along with this. There's another Sabian symbol, the one for the earth, has a tree in it. Many little birds on the limb of a tree. So the birds, again, we're carrying from the large aviary. As I said, this is part 2 of like actors of second Renaissance, leaders that are coming out of what seems to be like sleeper cells. So many very unique people doing some really fabulous work that I found over the Capricorn cycle. Love that. That continues. The chatter, many little birds on the limb of a tree. Trees, in my understanding, are like the neural network of Sophia, of the planet. And so she's active. And let's see what develops around that. We'll see. All right, Mercury.
Seeing that symbol makes me feel pretty fresh that a lot of the additional communication that we've been able to get, whether it's just people waking up, is going to continue, which to me that's exciting. I'm so tired of the narrative of the lamestream media that so long as we've got anybody that's looking at what's happening and willing to talk about it, I feel good.
Yes, and really specializing in and with things that we really want to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a mass awakening happening, but trailblazing ahead of that is just phenomenal information from people, like brand new and like maybe people have been around a while but that we just haven't connected yet. But loving that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Mercury is at a mechanic testing a car's battery with a hydrometer. So this is about getting a gauge on our emotions, or for some people it might be getting a grip on emotions. With the water element there, water is emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Testing a car's battery with a hydrometer. We're water. We need to we need to be in good working condition. And so this is with Mercury, so it's with our mind. So what we think about how we feel, switching that up if that needs a change. This energy is also about tests, T-E-S-T-S, tests and testing. I'm not really sure how that might be more interpersonally, but we could have tests. The truth movement might be tested. Well, there's the false flag potential is higher this month, and so the collective may be tested. The visual, there may be something quite visual, a visual display, some big event. Venus, illuminated by a shaft of light, a large cross lies on rocks, surrounded by sea and mist. So this is a relentless energy. This is February 26th, I believe, is when the sun is located at 7 Pisces degree. Anyone born on that day is dogged, relentless, does not give up, and seeks spirit. It's a beautiful symbol. Illumination of the shaft of light. Okay, so remember that one because it's going to repeat. Anything else? Yeah, replacing what's been misplaced comes with this energetic. There's a repeat with sacrifice and recommitting. Okay. Mars is at 13 Sagittarius. A widow's past is brought to light. All right, with this one, what's due or karma or cause and effect comes back around. It certainly brings revelations. There can be a reclaiming, grief, scrutiny, what's going on behind the veils. The black moon. The black moon will be at 11 Capricorn pheasants display their brilliant colors on a private estate. All right, this is what's coming out of the shadows, what's been in the corners hiding. Visual displays, again, with the pheasants display brilliant colors. Nationalistic displays even. I'm wondering if something doesn't happen with Julian Assange this month and he might actually get out of his imposed prison there. I certainly hope so.
Definitely.
Keep in mind, just for future reference, the Black Moon will be making exact square with the Eris point May 12th through 16th. And then the Black Moon will conjunct Pluto the 16th to 21st. So that's going to be a dramatic time. We'll talk more about that. I'm so sorry, I'm losing my voice. I've been speaking too much today. Okay, Jupiter. Jupiter will be at 23 degrees of Scorpio, a rabbit metamorphosed into a fairy. This is about the lower evolving to the higher mind and about transmuting energy, neutralizing energy also, revelations. This is the degree of Hillary Clinton's ascendant if we are given the correct birth time, which I'm not certain that we are. So Jupiter is ascending for her. This is a critical month, okay? This is going to be pivotal in her future. There's potential with this for assassination. We could see this happening potentially with a patriot being blamed for this. It may be some sort of thing where the cabal sacrifices their queen. We don't, not trying to wish any harm. I'm not saying I want that to happen. Please don't misunderstand. I'm just saying that's just not a transit that's really that favorable for her at the moment. I also will say that she had to come to Cali meeting during the full moon phase, during the eclipse phase, and we'll see what happens with that. Well, maybe we'll talk more about that another time.
Yeah, I think
right.
that there's a lot to talk about there. I've got about 5 thoughts that could go on for hours.
We just, there's just something could be just really happening really major in New York City. At the time of the new moon, the degree of the ascendant, so the degree that's rising over New York City at the time of the new moon, is the degree of the super full blue blood eclipse moon.
Mm-hmm.
So that links in over there, and just displays. Let's continue. Saturn is at 7 Capricorn. A veiled prophet speaks, seized by the power of a god. This one. I will be very interested to see what develops with this one this month. This is around the Middle East. Let's drill down into that one at another time as well.
Okay.
Chiron, 27 Pisces, because we're on a time crunch, and that's going to take me a little time. I don't want to just throw that out and then not be able to really talk about it much. Chiron is at a harvest moon, illuminates the sky. So remember, we had illuminated by a shaft of life with Venus. The harvest moon brings the blessings. And speaking of that, Uranus, 26 Aries, a man possessed of more gifts than he can hold. Blessings. On the contrary, at the other end of the polarity, a waste of talent. But bounty and resources, again, resources coming back in with the Sabian symbol for the new moon, the tree felled and sawed to ensure a supply of wood for the winter. So things we're getting in line now to sustain us for the next year. Okay, remember what happens during balsamic phase is like loads in, prepares the field for the new year. So the next 2 months we want to keep it as positive as possible and as imaginative and hopeful, because this is the time when the most is done to in the cycles of energy. It's the best energy to use for what you want in the future, whatever you envision. It's visual time. And so we want to counter all of the negative, ugly black magic stuff that's pumped in, knowing what we're doing. Mm-hmm. Neptune, a lady wrapped in fox fur. This is always about the true person being revealed, seeking security, hiding from scrutiny. Again, like I was saying, there could be elements of grief this month, seeing maybe what's lost or what's past. Pluto's at a relay race. Remember, Pluto is discharging 21 degrees of Capricorn. That's Sabian symbol is a relay race, but it is now beginning to make square with the Eris point. I discussed this heavily in the conversation I had with Wise Al Sheila on Conscious Conversation Central. Mm-hmm. And I went into a lot about how the Black Moon and Pluto and then Saturn squaring the Eris point and what that really meant for revolution. So I'm not going to repeat myself here. But February 24th through 26th is when that exact square was made with Pluto. We want to keep an eye on the timing. It's a very, very important time.
Which, by the way, did you also note that the powers that aren't declared that Pluto's a planet again?
No, I didn't.
Yes, they redeclared it a planet.
Pluto comes back up into the consciousness, back into the upper world. All right, yes, very interesting.
They've redefined it again. That was 2 or 3 days ago. I thought that was hilarious.
I don't know how I missed that. Here's a little clue on what this is about. I don't believe it's any coincidence that the letter that was sent to Donald Trump Jr. that his wife opened, it was a coincidence only by the energetics of the archontic planets. Let's just say it what it is. Mm-hmm. That was in effect. The moon was conjunct Pluto right when that was happening. And so if you haven't heard that discussion I had with Sheila about Pluto and the Eris point and the black moon and all that, it's just about the ugliest things. It's about bringing up the ugly. And so between now and February 26th, we're in the serious ugly time. And that means we just spread more beauty and love. Lastly, the North Node at 15 Leo, a pageant moving along a street packed with people. Again, a display. More revelations about destiny. Also, the North Node is again, the point of destiny, and this is about a street. So the words that repeat within the names of the Sabian symbols or within the images: tree, illuminated by a shaft of light, brought to light, display, private, veiled, illuminates, gifts. Yeah. All right.
Lots to watch in the next month, yes.
Well, yeah, we'll see what all happens with this. And then a few of these topics I will be talking a little bit more in depth on. And a couple of things to announce, some really great fun things real quickly. Andrew will be able to run charts for anyone that would like that done. So if you would like to get your chart, like a copy of your chart, so that you can look at it, what the degrees are. Obviously, you'll need the little key, that we'll have with it, where you can translate what the glyphs are. And then you can see, were any of these degrees in my chart activated? And also, maybe if you want to take a look at your chart and superimposed on the map with astrocartography, if you want to do that, you'll be able to contact Andrew through Oracle Report contact page. So you can just go to oraclereport.com, click the contacts tab where you can contact Andrew to do that, and that'll just be, I won't be involved in that whatsoever, because that'll just be the best all the way around. But just the beginnings of that, and then hopefully we can build on me doing some more teaching and how to understand your chart. But that's something we've been wanting to implement for quite a while, and happy to report that we can now.
Yes, and so everybody's thinking about this. As Laura said, we want to go into a little bit more detail on some of these points that were brought up in a couple future recordings, because there is just so much to go through, and some very deep points. I think her discussion with Sheila about Pluto was kind of the beginning of that. But we've got a couple that we'll be doing, and then also the idea with the charts. You'll find out a little bit more about that within the coming week, exactly how to do it and what you're going to be looking for. And it's a way that we can bring more of this Oracle Report astrology to everybody personally, to enable you to follow what's going on.
Yeah, and to utilize it to know what pitch is coming. Right? So because eventually we want to get, we don't really want to be playing this game, do we? We either want to be owning the team or on to another sport altogether, maybe. How about that?
Exactly.
We don't want to be punked by the planets anymore.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. Thanks everybody for listening.
And thank you everybody for listening. There's a lot happening right now, and a lot that's going to be happening, and please stay tuned. So with that, thank you very much.